The storm rolled in with a vengeance that night, the kind that turned Singapore's streets into rivers of shadows. Rain pounded against the cracked windows of an old colonial house on the outskirts of Jurong, and with every flash of lightning, the peeling walls seemed to breathe. Inside, a woman named Choon Hua sat alone, clutching the sides of her chair, staring at a porcelain doll sitting on the shelf. Its wide black eyes gleamed in the flickering candlelight. She whispered a silent prayer, for she knew tonight would not be peaceful. Choon Hua had recently moved back into her late mother's home after years of struggling through life in the city. Her husband, Wei Ming, had died tragically in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving her alone with her teenage daughter, Li Na. Hoping for a fresh start, she thought returning to the house of her childhood would bring comfort. Instead, it brought nightmares. From the very first night, Li Na complained about whispers in her room. At first, Choon Hua dismissed them as the sound of wind against the shutters, or perhaps the girl's imagination stirred by moving into a new place. But then, Li Na began to wake screaming. Her eyes wide, her voice trembling, she would insist that a child was in her room, always standing in the corner, always staring. Choon Hua tried to reason with her. "It's only a dream, Li Na. Your mind is playing tricks on you." But as the days passed, the truth clawed its way through denial. She began hearing the sounds herself. Laughter, soft and chilling, floating down the hallway at midnight. The sound of tiny footsteps pattering against wooden floors, even when her daughter was fast asleep beside her. The doll in the living room became the center of her fear. She remembered it from her childhood. Her mother had brought it home one day, refusing to explain where it came from. It was no ordinary doll. Its porcelain face was cracked in places, its painted lips frozen in a twisted smile. Sometimes, Choon Hua swore its eyes followed her, gleaming with malice. One night, unable to sleep, she sat in the living room staring at the doll. The storm outside roared as thunder rattled the house. She whispered aloud, "What do you want from us?" The candle beside her flickered violently, then went out, plunging her into darkness. That was when she heard it, a child's voice, right beside her ear, whispering, "Mama." Choon Hua gasped, stumbling back, her heartbeat racing. But there was no one there. The next morning, she found Li Na sitting at the dining table, pale and exhausted. Her daughter's voice cracked as she said, "Mama, she keeps calling me sister." Choon Hua froze. "Who does?" "The girl," Li Na replied, her lips trembling. "She says I took her place. She says she wants to come back." The words dug deep into Choon Hua's chest. Memories from her past, ones she had buried for decades, began to surface. When Choon Hua was younger, before Li Na was born, she remembered her mother speaking of a child's spirit bound to the doll. A child who was never meant to be born but was given form through dark rituals. Her mother had believed keeping the doll in the house would protect their family. But Choon Hua had always felt otherwise. She remembered hearing cries in the night, even as a child. She remembered once waking to see the doll sitting on her bed, its hand resting on her arm. Now, decades later, it was happening again. Only this time, the spirit had grown restless. That evening, Choon Hua went to the temple seeking guidance. The monk who listened to her story frowned deeply, shaking his head. The spirit is a Toyol, a ghost child summoned through forbidden rites. It feeds on fear and attaches itself to families through objects, often dolls or toys. It grows jealous of the living, especially children who have what it was denied. Choon Hua felt her body turn cold. "What should I do?" The monk looked at her gravely. "You must sever its bond. Burn the object that ties it here. But be warned, spirits do not leave quietly. It will fight to stay." That night, she returned home, the doll tucked in a sack, determined to end the haunting. But as she prepared the fire in the backyard, Li Na appeared at the doorway, her face pale and blank, as though she were in a trance. Her small voice called out, "Mama, don't hurt her. She just wants to play." Before Choon Hua could react, the sack tore open on its own. The doll rolled out, landing upright in the wet grass. Its cracked face gleamed in the lightning, and from it came the sound of giggling. The candle she had carried blew out, and suddenly, the air grew heavy, suffocating. She felt unseen hands clutching her ankles, pulling her down. "Mama!" Li Na screamed, snapping out of the trance. She rushed forward, grabbing her mother's hand. Choon Hua clutched her daughter tightly, praying aloud, begging the spirit to release them. The fire flared to life on its own, and in desperation, she hurled the doll into the flames. The night erupted with a deafening scream, shrill, inhuman, like the wail of 1,000 children crying at once. The ground trembled as shadows writhed across the walls. Choon Hua held Li Na close, shielding her eyes as the doll's porcelain face blackened and cracked apart. Finally, the cries faded, swallowed by the storm, leaving behind only the crackle of fire and the smell of burnt porcelain. But even as dawn broke and calm returned, Choon Hua knew it was not over. The doll was gone, but the house still felt heavy, the air still thick with something unseen. That morning, Li Na whispered to her, "She's gone, Mama, but she said she'll find another way back." Choon Hua kissed her daughter's forehead, hiding her fear. She knew the spirit of the ghost child had not been destroyed, only driven away. And somewhere in another home, another family might soon hear the laughter of a child who was never meant to live. In the days that followed, Choon Hua tried to convince herself that burning the doll had ended everything. She cleaned the house, opened all the windows to let light flood in, and even sprinkled salt across the doors and windowsills as the monk had advised. For a brief moment, life seemed to return to normal. Li Na laughed again, no longer waking from her sleep screaming, and Choon Hua allowed herself the fragile comfort of believing it was over. But peace never lasted long in that house. One night, as the cicadas screamed in the trees outside, Choon Hua woke to the sound of humming. At first, she thought it was coming from outside, a neighbor perhaps, but as she strained her ears, she realized it was coming from inside the room. She sat up slowly, her skin prickling, and saw Li Na sitting at the foot of the bed. Her daughter's back was to her, her head tilted slightly as though she were listening to someone whisper.